Yeah, there's a lot of like negative comments about going to foodie med school or just being an IMG. And it's like I feel like hearing someone's actual personal experience matters more than other people who like didn't even go there, but they just heard stories. Sure.
What is up, everybody? We're back today with another video. Today we have on my good friend and classmate Nicole and her soon-to-be husband, fiance right now, Sam. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Excuse our dog for barking.
Yeah, I have a dog over here too, so
Our dog
you
hears
can
your
hear
dog.
both sides barking. Yeah, today we Nicole matched into pediatrics, and they also went to the couples match. So I think that's a good thing to be. Yeah, so they both went to the couples match, and I think we're gonna be talking about the pediatrics and also the couple match experience. I think that's something I didn't think about. So I think when she brought this up, I was like, yeah, I think this would be an excellent time to talk about it. So perfect timing. So you want to just tell us about yourself, Nicole, and what you matched into, kind of?
Sure, yeah. So I am originally from California, originally from Northern California, went to UC Davis for college. Over there is where I kind of found my love for pediatrics, love for medicine, actually. And then within medicine, I knew that I always wanted a career that focused on children. So pediatrics was the perfect fit for me. And I did a few experiences in pediatrics in my college career. After that, I went to Georgetown University in DC. I did a master's program. And then after that, I went to SGU, did my 4 years of medical school over there, and was happy to match into pediatrics back in California. That's all I could ask for.
That's awesome. And you want to tell us a bit about yourself too, Sam?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having us both. So my name is Sam. Nicole and I met at UC Davis, and from there, we had to do long distance for a little bit. We did couples matching as well, both from different schools and both from very different parts of the country. But after Davis, went to Toro, which is in Northern California. It's a DO school, and did my master's program there. And then got accepted into Toro for the comm program, the medical school. And I just matched into family medicine. So future family colleagues right here. But
yeah, congrats, man. Hey, FM for the win.
Yeah, you too.
So yeah, so you guys did the couple match. You guys both from California. Did you do apply at all, Nicole, or just straight up pediatrics?
No, I just straight applied pediatrics.
Okay. And you USIMG then, yeah?
Sorry?
You are USIMG?
USIMG, yep.
Okay. And kind of talk to us about how you make your, like, how you chose which program you applied to, how many did you end up applying to total?
Yeah, sure. So especially since we were couples matching, we wanted to maximize all of our options and all of our locations just to give us as many opportunities as possible to end up in the same area or at least the same state. So I applied to about, I knew I wanted to end up living somewhere a little bit more urban rather than super rural. So we definitely targeted bigger cities such as the Bay Area, Los Angeles area, San Diego, and then like Chicago, New York, and yeah, just a few maybe scattered around the US, but mostly those were the big cities that we targeted. So I applied to about 80 something programs.
Okay. And kind of take us through the couple match process. Like how's that different from like the typical, like what do you have to do anything differently from if you were just applying like by yourself?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I don't know anything about the couple matching stuff, so.
Yeah. So so first, obviously, have a really long discussion with whoever you plan to couples match with, and it doesn't even have to be your significant other. It can be your friend, it can be your sibling, it can be anybody that you want to couples match with. It doesn't have to be anyone who you're getting married to or any significant other. So first, make sure both you and that person are aligned in the places that you want to apply to. And the places that are important to you, both, as an individual person and as a couple, like where you want to stay together, but also what programs are important to you, in spite of not being able to stay with the other person in that location. So that was really important to have initially. Then when you apply, The actual process of applying is pretty similar to if you're applying as an individual. But then once you hit the submit button, that's when you can do a little bit of tweaking here and there that you can only do if you are couples matching. So something that Sam and I did is that when interviews started rolling in, the interviews that I had received, like the locations of those interviews, if Sam had programs in those locations that he hadn't heard back from yet, he would send them a letter of interest and say that the person I'm couples matching with, who is also my wife, received an interview at so-and-so program in LA, for example. And since, your program is like very close by and I really love your program for these reasons, this is why it fits with my, future goals as a physician, I would love to be considered for an interview. And not all programs, but a good number of programs really take the couples match into consideration. They're not trying to separate couples. They're not trying to separate families. So a lot of the times they will, hear them out and consider their application a little bit more. Doesn't mean you're guaranteed an interview, but I'm sure like there is some further consideration there. So he did that with the interviews in the locations that I had received. And I did the exact same thing for the interview spots that he received. I would look at where those cities are and then email the programs I hadn't heard back from yet and say the same thing on my end. And that way it maximizes our options of, getting interviews in the same city or at least the same state, and then hopefully end up couples matching together. So I thought that was really important. And with that, you have to find a really good sweet spot of like when they've already passed out interviews, but not finished passed out interviews, where there's still a few left for people in our position who, are given further consideration. So I thought that was really helpful to do as couples matching and really important to do with couples matching as well. I think that was one of the most crucial things. And then throughout the interview, during the interviews, we would point out one of the main reasons that we had wanted to go to that program, if it was in the same city as our significant other, was because we were couples matching. And many times, as soon as I had said that, I would see the interviewer write down that information immediately because that is something that is very crucial for them to know. And then throughout the rest of the interview cycle, everything else was the same. And then when it came to the rank listing, normally when you're doing rank listing, if you're an individual, let's just say you've received 10 interviews, you're going to be ranking 1 through 10, your most wanted option to the one that you don't care much for at the bottom. But when you're couples matching, you do combinations. So it gives you so many more, it requires more time. It's not just straight 1 to 10, but like it'd be one of my program and then one of his program and then the same program in mine and then a different program in his. So you're trying to do multiple combinations. If I have received 2 interviews in LA and he received 3 interviews in LA, you can make every single combination of my LA programs and his LA programs, if that makes sense. And, maximize all the different combinations to see, hopefully one of these combinations ends up putting us together.
Does it cost you extra? So like, let's say you guys each got 3, usually be 3 rank, but because of now you guys have 3, you gotta do like at least 9 each, right? Just for with those 3 combinations. Does it cost extra to do that? Like, does it count towards those,
Yeah, so I think actually we ended up with 212 combinations.
Oh my gosh.
Which is crazy, which required a lot of time to and maneuver through, and a lot of people to edit it and make sure that it's done correctly too, based on what we want. And it makes sense. But in terms of cost, from what I remember, I think there was a flat $40. Don't quote me on $40, but something under like $100 for sure. A flat couples charge fee, and then there was an additional fee because we had gone past 200 ranks.
Okay.
That they had to just accommodate for. But
I think it was actually a fee for every 50. So it was like 50. They charge you X amount, and then they did it 4 times or 4 or 5 times for us because we were 50, 50, 50 like that.
Yeah.
But it's in comparison to everything else, it's it's like doing any other application. It's like just a little bit more, a few hundred or something. Obviously, it all adds up, but on top of everything, but still.
Yeah, so it does. So they do charge you for that because I think for us, I mean, like you do single. Like for me, they do charge you a flat fee, probably around 40, 50, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably what you said. Like if it's over 50, you start paying extra for those stuff. So,
but
most of the time, like individuals like me, we wouldn't, I think get like 40. We wouldn't rank like 40 programs anyway. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like most people don't consider the couples match for a lot of reasons, right? But if they don't realize what's going on, and I think that one thing of note that's really significant is that we talk about aligning priorities, and that's really key because what that means is and we were explaining this by our advisors, but what that means is like, do you want to live in the same place? Is that your priority? Do you want this program and this has been your dream since forever, and the other partner is going to join you to make that happen, for whatever the reason may be? Or do you want a region of the country? And that is what we mean by priorities. And so once you have that aligned, that's how 212, in our case, combinations get made, is you start with your goal and then you try to get as close to your goal as you can. So then you start like spreading out from there. And so we can potentially talk about that, but that's what we mean.
gotcha. So what was your guys' goal? Was it just like mostly location or
To live together and to be with each other, especially like as a newly married couple, we'd want to try to live in the same place. And we both know the rigors of training and everything like that. So, that was obviously the top priority. It didn't 100% work out that way, but we definitely gave it like a really good try. We exhausted all the options.
sounds good?
It worked out like halfway. We got in the same state.
Yeah,
Then I'd like to thank couples matching for that, but just not the
Exactly.
same city necessarily.
exactly.
How far away are you guys?
So he's in Northern California, and I'm in Southern California. So it's
Okay,
about an hour and a half-ish flight.
I used to work across the street from your program, Nicole.
Oh, really?
In
Where
the
did you
ED.
work?
I was scribing.
At the other hospital. There's another hospital over there. What is the name of that?
St. John's?
St.
Joseph.
St.
St.
Joseph.
Joseph,
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah.
And then we had like pediatric emergency doc coming over to us, and I work with them too. So
That's
Oh,
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, so
That area is really nice. I
it's
really
super
love
nice.
it.
Yeah, Orange is super nice. Very cool. So letter of interest. Yeah, I think you guys was that successful? You guys find yourself like sending out a lot of those, and you get like reviews from a lot of those letters that you guys sent.
Yeah, I thought it was extremely, extremely helpful. And something to note about those also, I mentioned earlier that you have to find a sweet spot of when the programs have started to give out interviews, but they haven't finished giving out interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And, many times if you haven't received an interview, how will you know, when they've already sent out interviews or what their timeline is? So something that I would definitely advise to everyone, whether you couples match or not, is on Reddit, they have those Google Excel sheets with every different specialty. And when you click, so for me, I clicked on the pediatrics Google sheet, and you don't need a Reddit account at all. You just have to access the Reddit page and then just click on the Google Excel sheet. Then you don't even need Reddit. And once you're on the Google Excel sheet, so for me it was pediatrics, there's one tab, I guess, that's like more of a chat feature for people. So it's everyone who's in our same boat applying for that specialty. So one option is a chat feature, which is awesome because everybody's kind of in the same boat as you. Everybody's nervous when you're nervous. Everybody's excited when you're excited. So that's really cool to relate to. But most importantly, there's another tab that will show kind of how many interviews that has been recorded on the Excel sheet that each program has given out. And I thought that was really, really helpful because that kind of gave me an idea of like, okay, this program already started sending out interviews. I have not received an interview yet. This is a good opportunity for me to send a letter of interest. And hopefully the next round of interview invites, I can maybe be considered. So I think that is like the number one piece of advice I would give is look at that Excel sheet, get an idea of where, the interview, where the program is in the interview cycle, and gauge from there about when to send the letter of recommendation or letter of interest. But like when we did it around like October, mid to late October, and I thought that was pretty good timing. But in terms of answering your exact question, I thought it was really helpful. Quite a few programs definitely considered it, and the program that I had gone to was thanks to the letter of interest. So I thought that was very helpful to get, and allowed us to really maximize our options too as a couple.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, and you don't know until you ask. So I'm a pretty outgoing guy and stuff like that, but my personality doesn't get me to that extra step of asking all these programs. But it is really worthwhile. Like I would say 3 or 4 programs I was really interested in that initially didn't grant me an interview. For whatever reason, I was able to get an interview with them through this letter. So they really do read it. It's very, very important part of it.
That's very cool. And did you guys send it to the program coordinator, or did you like straight up find a PD himself, or how do you guys do it?
I did it to both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Annoying like that.
Yeah.
But usually it's one or the other who responds back.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Very cool. So how many interviews did you get, Nicole?
So I got a total of 20 and I took 19.
Nice. That's a good number.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 80 applied to 80 programs, 20 interviews.
Yeah.
Nice. And what was your extracurriculars? Did you do any like research and stuff?
Yeah. So I did research. So I included just from like the beginning to the end, included my research in college. I did microbiology research there for a year and a half to 2 years, and I did a poster presentation with it too. So that was a nice add-on. And then after that, in the preclinical years of medical school, I did a research with one of the neuro professors. That one I did a presentation from, and that one was about a year long. And then I felt like the one that most people were interested in my interviews was the one that I did during my clinical rotations. So actually, you were on this rotation with me, the newborn rotation at Arrowhead. So we actually did a project on septic workup on newborns in the newborn nursery, because it seemed like the hospital was doing excess septic workup. So we did that. We studied, we kind of took that and we studied that. And I felt like that was the one that resonated most with the interviews. They were really, really interested, especially having it be a pediatric research and me applying pediatrics. They were especially interested in learning more about that. So those were the ones that I incorporated in my application. And that last one actually won first place in the hospital.
Wow. That's awesome.
Competition too, which was pretty cool. Yeah.
So how did you get the opportunity, when you were at Arrowhead?
I knew I wanted to do research, and I knew I wanted to do one in pediatrics. That hospital doesn't have a pediatrics residency, but they do have the family medicine residency. And luckily, during my pediatrics rotation, when a family medicine resident was working, I asked that resident if that person or they knew anyone who was doing any project in pediatrics. And it happens to be that one of the FM residents at the time was just about to start a pediatrics research opportunity. So I think I got kind of lucky with my timing. So that's kind of just how I found her. I asked around.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's a good lesson to take in, just because I know from SGU you really don't get any opportunity from your first and second year compared to in the USMD or DO school, because then at least for the USMD and DO they get hospital affiliation, so they get contact with like preceptors in the first and second year. I know they go at least once a week to a hospital or something and have all these connections and networks and opportunities to do research for first and second year. But I know we don't. So I was like, that's why I have like absolutely zero research experience. But I need to ask people like how you guys get like research and like publications coming from SGU, especially.
Yeah. So I always say that the worst thing that they can say is no, which is not a bad thing at all. You just have to keep asking around them. So there's no harm in asking.
So you got to be like Nicole and just, when you're in rotation, just ask the residents. You don't know, when they, because a lot of the time I think the residents will have ideas and like they want to act on it, but they just kind of need someone else to like do the
actual work. Yeah.
So that's where you come in as a med student.
Yeah.
Very cool. I think that's a good takeaway lesson right there. Do you do any aways and audition rotations for your pediatric stuff?
I did, yeah. Things were a little bit confusing because it was still like up and down with COVID. So some of my pediatric rotations did get canceled, and I had to find another one that was open. But I did do aways. I did them mostly in New York for a couple of reasons. One, for pediatrics in particular, not a lot of pediatric electives were available in California. So I thought that, and there were a ton available in the East Coast with SGU affiliated hospitals, more specifically. So that was one reason to go to New York. And then secondly, I personally have always wanted to live in New York for a little bit at some point in my life. And I thought, what better time than during fourth year of medical school, when things are a little bit easier once you finish step 2 and once you finish applications. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to go and explore New York. And he also came with me and did his aways in New York as well. One thing I will recommend though is if you do them in New York, or if you're already in New York, don't do them where it's like one hospital on one side of New York, another, like the next month you're at a hospital at a different part of New York. Like try to group your hospitals in the same area where you can just live in one place and still go to every or most of these hospitals. Because I kind of jumped around, and while that was cool to see different hospitals and different areas of New York and New Jersey, the housing was definitely a pain. Yeah, it was very stressful. So definitely try to group them, or try to do the same hospital, or try to group them if you want to do different hospitals.
Gotcha. Did you find that doing the away and audition rotations going to help you get interviews and, help with your application process at all?
It did, yeah. I definitely got interviews at the places that I did my aways from. But I think it also, living in New York, for me personally, I realized I don't know if I can do residency in New York, just at like 3 more years, because I really like my car. So for me, I knew I wanted to be in California, but it definitely helped me, like doing the aways definitely helped me get interviews for sure.
Awesome. So what was the hardest part of the application process for you?
The hardest part was probably picking programs that are important to you. So you want to try to research as many programs as possible that you can do that fit with the location you want to be, because location is extremely important. It doesn't matter like how good or bad the program is. You want to be happy where you live. So, figuring out what that means to you, and also figuring out what your priorities are in terms of your future goals. If somebody is interested in pediatric cardiology, for example, what are the programs that can allow you to succeed in that, or whatever your future goals are, try to find programs that align with that. So I think researching programs was one that was a little bit difficult. And 2 was also making sure you are hitting the little time windows for everything you need to do. What I mean by that is, so with researching programs, make sure you research it early in advance, so you're not doing it at the last minute right before the application is due. And then with the letters of interest, I did mine. So applications were due at the end of September for our cycle, I believe, and I started researching beginning of September. I would even advise earlier the better if you want to do it in August too, and just start making a little Google Excel sheet or Google Doc and just jotting down little things you like about the program so you know what you want to apply for. And then that was like one window of time that was important. Another window of time was what I had mentioned earlier, was the sweet spot when sending letters of interest. So like I said, for our application cycle being due at the end of September, we sent our letters of interest middle to end of October. And I thought that was really good timing. So that was the second window. And then a third window also was when to send a letter of intent to the program that you 100% want to match into, the program that you intend to rank number 1. That window would probably be like end of February, or middle-ish of February. So before the programs themselves are having their rank list meetings about where to rank the applicants, maybe the letter of intent will influence that one way or the other. So that window is also important. So just basically the hardest part was just keeping track of those little windows and making sure you're not missing any of that. Gotcha.
Did you both send a letter of intent prior to the rank list due thing?
Yes, yeah, we did. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't send one. I'm kind of like, I don't know. Maybe I kind of shut up now that I'm thinking about it. I don't know. You're
at Arrowhead though, which is awesome.
Yeah. I mean,
and you're in California.
I'm not complaining about my choice, but I didn't send a letter of intent, so I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
I wish there was like a data on that, like how much it matters and stuff. So
here's the thing, though. Like, it's interesting that you say that, because letter of intent can be a big tease as well.
Mm-hmm.
We both sent them, and the responses that we got were so like, they felt so personal, because it is directly from the PD.
Mm-hmm.
That's what usually happens. The PD usually responds, and it's so personal, makes you feel so good. And a lot of this means nothing.
Yeah.
They're trying to just keep you interested in the program. They're trying to acknowledge your efforts. They're trying to really say they like you, and they actually might. But it also might be sort of like, they might be saying that to almost everybody. So you don't really know. And it's hard not to take it personal, because it feels really good to get those responses. But just go understanding it may be a tease as well. So don't go put your full heart into it.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Because the letter of intent that both Sam sent to his program and I sent to my number one program, we both got responses that exactly what Sam said, that were very warm and very personal and almost implying that, not any like explicit implying, but like underlying being like, oh yeah, we really, loved your interview and we think you'd be a great fit here. But then none of those programs were the ones that ended up we matching into, or we never matched into any of those programs. So yeah, it could definitely be a hit or miss.
Yeah, it's like the reason why I didn't do it, I just felt like it was like just like a big game because like we don't trust the PD, and I feel like the PD and the committee is not gonna trust us either because they've been burned too many times by students saying stuff, and the students have been burned too many times with PD promising stuff. So I feel like on both sides it's like foul play. So then I feel like it might not be taken, But again, I don't know. Maybe it does help in some way. So.
Yeah,
I guess the best advice would just be like do it because it doesn't hurt.
Exactly.
I guess if I could go back now, I guess might as well just do it because I mean the worst case scenario is like, oh, this guy's just a big tease and he's not gonna care and it doesn't change how I rank him.
Yeah.
But then the best thing is that, oh yeah, actually this guy's interested, so let's move him up the list. So I don't know. Yeah, that's cool. All right, just a few more questions. Like any scheduling interviews, like tips and tricks that you want to give out.
I would say schedule the programs that you are really interested in, the programs that you really like, more towards the middle of your interview cycle. Because the beginning interviews, maybe it took me like 2 or 3 interviews to really, really get comfortable. So I wouldn't schedule the programs that like you're hoping to rank highly as your first couple ones. And then I wouldn't schedule it towards the very end either, because towards the very end, you also are a little bit more burnt out and like you care a little bit less. Like you take the ones in the beginning and the middle, like you are really, really prepared for those. And the ones in the end, you might be a little bit more burnt out. So definitely schedule those towards the middle. And the ones that you are thinking are more second choice or backup options for you in the beginning and towards the end.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And what would you do differently if you can go back? Anything at all, or you wouldn't change anything?
What would I do differently? I would maybe start for couples matching, we sent quite a few letters of interest because we wanted to maximize our different cities that we potentially could match into. So I would start writing those letters of interest quite quickly after the applications are sent. But then sending them, actually, you can wait for maybe that sweet spot. But start writing them early so you're not writing a bunch at the very, like in that, week or 2 week window. You're not sitting there stressfully writing everything. But I would start writing those early, but that's about it that I would change.
That's a good idea. I mean, are you just copying and pasting most of them though?
Not too much. Maybe like 40% of the information is the same, but then the other bits you want to make it personalized to that program. Okay. And the California ones, I would all say like the same reason for California, that I'm from California, he's from California, our families are in California, we intend to stay in California, so like this would be perfect for us. But then I would also want to add a little blurb about why that program specifically means a lot to me, and I would do my research on that program. That's the part that actually took a while, was doing the research on the program, more so than even just the initial research of applying there, but dig a little bit deeper and find out like what exactly are the opportunities, what are the clinics that are there, like what are the unique aspects of the program that really stand out to you, that align with your career goals, and let them know that in just a couple sentences. It doesn't have to be a whole essay, literally just like 1 or 2 sentences, that this homeless clinic really aligns with my career goals of wanting to work with the underserved population. And that's about it. Yeah. And that way it's a little touch that like you actually put in some effort into looking at their program. You're not just copy pasting.
Yeah, that's good. There's some good tips right there, because I have no idea how to write letters of interest. So, so thanks for sharing that.
It took a lot of research to figure that out too. Don't worry.
Yeah, awesome. Any last tips and advices that you give to students applying, current students right now? Motivational words you want to give?
You go ahead.
I was just going to add one last thing to the previous things that you might go back and change or make additions to. I think one thing that's really underrated is knowing what you want. It's kind of similar to what we talked about earlier about how we had to kind of align our priorities when we were creating our couples match list and interviews and stuff. But a lot of times you'll see, and I'm sure like all of us can agree that during the interview process, certain programs felt really good because the way that you were interacting with residents, the way that they ran things, various aspects, or their offerings, maybe how they presented it. And I feel like as early as you can, if you can identify what are those things that made you feel good about that program, or what are those things that you really must see in them, that really helps the process and makes things more clear, because a lot of people do struggle, especially when it comes time for ranking, whether you're doing couples match, just the traditional regular match, about what they want and how they're going to differentiate between everybody. And we both kept notes, we did it in a different way. I took my notes, little tidbits during the interview, but I always wrote after every interview, my thoughts and impressions of the programs. And by the end of it, she had a good system too, where she put pros and cons lists. And it's just funny, now that this process is done for both of us, we just saw those notes like not too long ago. And, those pros and cons really made a big difference, especially in decision making and our thoughts and impressions. So I would suggest to do that for others. And I would also say that, knowing what you want is huge. It kind of guides you as you go forward. And I think those are some good tips for success in the match process itself.
Saw something. So yeah, I think I noticed that too when I was making a rank list. It's like going back and seeing which programs I want to rank and stuff. It's like it's nice to have those notes lying around, because like you totally forget
completely,
like, after all the interviews and seeing all those programs, you totally forget what each program was. Like you can't just rely on the names, and you can't just be going back on the internet and like looking at each program again. That'd be such a waste of time. And it's nice to have those notes on the sides and to help you kind of jog your memories and remember the experience with the program, the pros and cons and stuff. So definitely a great tip right there.
Yeah. It's funny because I would always hear before like interviewing that like, write it down, you're gonna forget. And I wrote it down like a lot, but in my head I was like, how am I gonna forget this program? Like I just spent 8 hours on Zoom interviewing, like how am I gonna forget it when it comes to ranking? But no, you forget it, because it's not like you forget it, but it all just becomes like one big jumbled up like pros and cons list. So it's nice to have it for every program, like have everything separated out. So yeah, that's definitely really good advice.
Would you say there's like my concession or my perception of the couples match is that it's harder than the average just like individual match? Would you say that's the case, or do you think it's the same, or would you say it's like easier?
I think it can be a little bit harder, but it's not anything crazy. The part that's hard is just one thing is making sure you're aligned with the person that you are couples matching with on your priorities. I've definitely heard stories of like somebody, matching finally with their significant other, but they felt like that particular program that they matched at, even though they are with their significant other, they had better options in locations that were not with their significant other, and that becomes a problem. So, making sure you're really, really aligned with both yourself and your significant other about that. That's important. And then that makes things a little bit more complicated, just trying to, navigate that. And then the letters of interest, making sure you're on top of that. But then the most challenging part, I would say probably, is the rank listing, because it's not just 1 through 10 or however many interviews you've received. It's like potentially 200, almost 300 combinations that take like a lot of time. First, you have to realize like, what are my own rank lists based on the interviews I got? Like, what's my numbers 1 through 10 or 1 through 20 or whatever it is. And then see your partners 1 through whatever they got, and then start to put the combinations together. So that takes in itself, just creating that list takes like, I think 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah. I would say couples matching without a doubt is harder. But the potential reward is also very great.
Yeah, it's worth the challenge.
It is worth it. And, if you can reach advisors who know what they're talking about, sometimes that helps. In my case, I was fortunate. There's one advisor at my school who actually took a lot of time to sit down with both of us, and he's very familiar with what the couples match is and how to interpret it and how the computer interprets it and how it gives us greater chances. And that is a big takeaway I want to just mention, is that yes, it's more work. Yes, it's all these things. She went into great detail about it, and that's all true. But the couples match itself has a lot of power, and that's a quote that we kept hearing a lot. And we didn't get the exact same city. We didn't get to do that, but we are in the same state. We are 1 hour away, and for all intents and purposes, it's successful. So you guys got to keep that in mind, right? Like at the end of the day, you want to be close to the person or for whatever priorities that you set, and it gives you that chance, but it is a lot more work.
Gotcha. So let me just try to sum it up. Would it be correct if I say, so ideally, couple matching, you will end up in the same program, right? That's like the ideal.
It's same geographic area.
Definitely doesn't have to be the same program.
Yeah, not the same program necessarily.
Gotcha. See, because my perception it was always like, oh yeah, you couple matching, then that means you're gonna end up in this, like the programs gotta accept both of you, and that's why it's so much tougher than the average. But that's
no.
That's not true.
It's the same. Yeah, I think a lot of people think that it's the same. It's whatever you want it to be. Actually, honestly,
as long as you get in the same kind of location geographically, doesn't have to be in the same program.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me now.
Yeah.
All right.
Because we even ranked towards the end of our list, we wanted to make sure we matched at the end of the day. That was our number one priority. So towards our end of the list, we even had combinations where I was matching in California and I coupled it with him matching in New York. Because we already did in the beginning of our list, we did all the combinations of California, California, and New York, New York. But now, what if a New York program, like only that New York program liked him and only that California program liked me? We would be unmatched if that combination wasn't there. So we made sure we made every single combination, including combinations where we are long distance and we are on different coasts, but it still allowed us to match at the end of the day.
Gotcha.
So couples matching can be whatever you want it to be, like whatever geographic region you want it to be. And if it is the same program, we had one program, I think that was the same for me for pediatrics and him for FM. And that one, we definitely ranked that it'd be great to be in the same program too. But it's at the end of the day, like whatever combinations you want it to be is what they'll go off of.
Sounds good.
Yeah, my last thought on this as well, just a tiny addition, is that, USDO school, USIMG school, right? Like the status and the words that everyone tends to focus on of each school and all these impressions we might have prior to joining school, right? Like I would say during the match process, it doesn't matter as much. Yes, the programs are comparing us to our peers. But I feel like that sort of is more washed away. That's sort of more in the back window when we are applying, because us being in separate areas didn't prevent us from doing this. So I think that is a good window into the possibilities of it.
Gotcha. Sounds good, guys. So that's what we have. Thanks, Nicole and Sam, for sharing their match experience.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Pediatrics. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. I will drop Nicole's IG handles or something if she's feel comfortable giving it out, and you guys can message her. You guys have any further questions for her and Sam too. Yeah, and that's what we have for today. If you guys like this video, make sure you like and subscribe for more. And like I said, I have a lot more videos coming with other specialties. Until next time, thanks for watching.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.